Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Tuesday, the 22nd of March. Following Robert Murray McShane's reading scheme, one of the chapters we read today is Ephesians chapter 2. Paul unpacks our faith and what we believe and why we believe it and how we are saved. And in verse 3, he states, like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath. He's saying that we lived in a world, a fallen world, where people are caught up in sin, and we were like them. We were fallen, and what we deserved was wrath. And this goes against what so many people think. The tendency is to think that what God is looking for is relative goodness. And from a human perspective and from a human justice perspective, that is true. We don't treat every person that does something wrong in the same way. And if somebody steals a bag of shopping in a shopping center, they will not be treated in the same way as the people who stole all that money from Eskom ought to be treated, or Jacob Zuma, who spent 450 million of taxpayers' money on his own personal house. Those kind of crimes, taking that much, should be treated very differently from the person who snatches a few hundred rand in a shopping center. And it's right that it should be. But people tend to think that that's what God is looking for. He's looking at relative goodness. Whereas what the Bible teaches us is that God is looking not for relative goodness, but for absolute perfection. Nothing less than absolute perfection is good enough. Because if there's anything imperfect in God's perfect heaven, heaven would no longer be heaven. So only perfection is good enough. And therefore, Paul says, none of us meet that criteria. All of us deserve not heaven, but the opposite. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. We're all by nature objects of his wrath. And the good news is, we're also all freely offered his love and forgiveness, his compassion and welcome. We all are saved by grace through faith. That's what Paul is establishing. And so be challenged that as you go through life, it's very easy to judge people and think, I'm better than that person. Which, if I've just stolen a bag of sweets and that person's stolen R1 million, yes, there's I'm relatively better from a worldly perspective. But in God's eyes, we're both sinners. And we need to always remember that. And we need to recognize how God's dealt with us. He's dealt with us in love and compassion and forgiveness. And we need to deal with other people in the same way. We need to share that love we've received, that compassion that God has given us. That's what we need to share in the world. And that's how we need to treat other people. So be challenged in how you treat people and be encouraged in your faith. Recognize you deserve wrath. We all do. But we have received love. We've received compassion. We've received forgiveness. We've received new life. We have been born again. We've been given eternity and an inheritance in God's kingdom. Not because we deserved it, because we deserved wrath, but because God loves us. And that's how we face life. Be encouraged.